So when I was given the lead on getting people to share their experience with emotional sobriety in this meeting, one of the first people that came to my mind was the person that's going to share tonight. I've been able to be a observer of her experience, and as I watch her grow, it gives me an opportunity to see that I'm growing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Debbie. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Dawn. I love you so much. Thank you. You've been such a source of hope for me as well. My name is Debbie Sangster, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is May 30th, 2006, and I'm extremely ever grateful for that. I have a sponsor, and I know two of my former sponsors are on here, Sammy and Val, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen Christy yet, but that's my current sponsor. And I have the honor privilege of walking this path with people. That's something I've always done, no matter what I'm feeling or thinking. That's just been a real gift in my life. And have a home group. Speaking of steps, it's a Julie and John come each week, and Dawn's a home group member, so is Sarah, and it's a great group. It's a solution-based meeting, and God knows I need it, man. I tell you, because I got a bad case of alcoholism. But anyway, I'm very grateful to be here, and I just want to say I'm very grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a big fan, though I fought it for 10 years. I was in and out for 10 years from 96 to 2006. It has saved my life for sure. I identify as a chronic alcoholic of the hopeless variety with grave mental and emotional disorders. And, this program has saved my life and given me the ability to grow and to continue to grow and be willing to grow. And that's just amazing to me. And my husband's going to be celebrating 22 years in February. Yes. So it did take a village. It'll be Sammy and Val, and even Don Prince 12-stepped him. Finally, when Val and I left him alone, I think he got sober. We were, and my only child, the light of my life, got sober at 18. He's 9.5 years sober. And so it has saved our family. And so I'm very grateful. Dawn, I'm supposed to, how much time am I supposed to take here to talk? I was a little unclear about that.
Oh, about 50 to 60 minutes.
Oh, then, when are the other people going to share? I want to hear their stuff.
It's all in the Dropbox. You can pick up any of the talks in the Dropbox.
Okay. Well, so
this meeting is also 90 minutes long.
Okay. So. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So, this article, I've read it many times, and it's so interesting, how things change in the big book and even articles, because, there were times I looked at this, so like, I just want happy, joyous, and free, like, get me there quick, and I'd almost be depressed when I'd read that because I want some magic key to make me feel better now. And reading it here, today, and, I think I look at it over the last couple of days, and I have a lot of hope because of the experiences I've had and being willing to stay here and being willing to grow, and, the other gift that I've been given along this path and from the people that have helped me is I've quit beating myself up for being me. I feel like it almost makes me want to cry. I was such as Mary Thayer says, a phony baloney. I had a front and presented it to you and was a people pleaser and, lived my life based on what I thought you needed or what I thought I needed and, how I was going to get it and, had no sense of self. And and the real me has gotten to show up. And so as a result, on this path, I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And some days it's not real good, but I have a solution, and I'm willing to, continue on this path and not beat myself up for, I've kind of taken good and bad and right and wrong and, oh, I'm so awful, like, no, I'm just, have the human condition in a really bad case of alcoholism, and I have a great solution, So anyway, just a little bit to qualify, I grew up in a very violent alcoholic household, and kind of held off drinking. I did drink the first time at 13, and I was just talking to Sponsi today, who's on here. He did the same thing, drank when he was 13 and immediately blacked out. And I did the same thing. I was like, I wonder if normal drinkers, like they might start drinking like, oh, but I was like deathly, I probably had alcohol poisoning. But then I didn't go right into drinking right away because my dad, it was just so unattractive to me. He was a very violent drunk, and it was awful. And I knew that alcohol had something to do with it. But then I got to going, and, it released me. I've started having severe panic anxiety attacks, like having to be rushed to the emergency room because I'm dying, starting at 16. But I was a very anxious child, and probably, living in the type of environment, I had a little trauma. And I had this thing. The reason I'm telling you that, because my alcoholism hid behind that, and it almost killed me. So through the years, I started drinking probably 17, 18, partying, and then, it was good. I mean, when you're a highly anxious person who feels like they don't, then like alcohol was like, it was the solution to my alcoholism. It took away the fear. It took away that hole in my soul. It took away my anxiety, and, really, I could come out and play. So I, did that through the years, and fast forward, partying, drinking, getting married, getting a divorce, blah, 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 all that stuff, and I was really good at getting what I thought I needed to be okay. It talks about the absolute dependency on things. Well, I had an absolute dependency on what I thought I needed to be okay. And I was good at getting it too. And I, got married, and 86, that's when I first got my first consequence from drinking. Got a DUI, and I'm not an alcoholic, blah, 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 and all that. But what I did know is the only time I felt okay is when I was drinking. And then I had one of my drinking buddies, because I started having really bad anxiety, even with my drinking. But I didn't know I was an alcoholic at that time. And she said, oh yeah, I go to this doctor. He's this little white pill. It takes away my anxiety, and I'm just fine. So, so one of the things I think that stunted me emotionally, and it took me so long to get any emotional sobriety and stay here, was I had a solution that Mommy's Little Helpers of, benzos, that I lived on for years. And, had no idea. Of course, the doctor didn't ask about the drinking. He just gave me the pill, and I took that. And so I was off to the races. So, fast forward, I end up continuing to drink, and the hole in my soul, I'd have bouts of depression and anxiety, and I just go to doctors and get what I needed. And finally, I had this idea that, what was wrong with me is I needed a better husband. So I divorced that one, got a new man. And then, I needed my dream home, and I needed to have a baby. And so that all happened about 34. I'd achieved those things. And that's when I began. I just was drinking around the clock. I mean, I was in sales and marketing, and we'd go to lunch and have drinks, and sometimes not go back to the office. And, my world just revolved around alcohol, and it worked so well for so long. But something happened to me. And by the time I was 36 years old, I had my son at 34, and then I started drinking around the clock. I was, had to have the morning drink. I just had impending sense of doom. I couldn't function without alcohol. And it just shocked me. But what I decided, it was because I was depressed, and it was the way I was raised, and it was my panic anxiety disorder. And let me get all that straightened out, that I can go back to normal drinking, which is at noon, for lunchtime instead of at 8 in the morning. So I started going to doctors. Well, first my gynecologist, he said, well, it might be delayed postpartum depression. So he gave me some pills, and I'm getting worse. And so he sent me to a specialist for anxiety and depression. And he asked me, do you drink? I'm a social drinker. I lied to him. So they continue to load me up on this pill and that pill, and been, Klonopin. And I mean, and I was crazier than a damn loon. And I, on top of taking all those pills, because I didn't tell the doctor, and please don't think I'm saying people that have mental illnesses should not do what their doctors say, but it helps if you tell them the truth, and I didn't. And he got me some talk therapy. I mean, they were doing everything to help me, and I'm getting worse, and I'm getting suicidal, and I'm drinking around the clock, until finally I decided one day, oh, maybe I do have a problem with drinking. That's how delusional I was. And I said, well, I'm just not going to drink today. I'll just get myself together. And I couldn't do it. I ended up going insane. I couldn't get the effect produced by alcohol to relieve me of the angst that I had. And I ended up in a psych ward. And that's where they told me I was an alcoholic, and I was highly offended. And, I stayed there for 10 days. And the best thing they did was like, you be dead, you do not drink and take benzos, they can kill you, So that's started me on the path of AA, and I began going to meetings, and that's when I met Sammy, and she and all her gals tried to help me. And, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not as bad as you all. And I stayed for about a year and a half, and, I'd learned my lesson, and I wasn't going to ever let it get that bad again. Went on with my life. Well, that didn't work out well. And so November the 13th, 1998, I came back. And I called somebody in AA's, Val. She came over 12-step me, and I was sober for 6 years and 3 days. And the reason I'm telling you this, because this works into my, the emotional sobriety and all that, and my inability to stay here. And what happened, I was really scared at that point. It's fine if I'm scaring you, but when I start scaring myself. And, I had been in AA for that year, and I'd gone to funerals, and I knew that people died. And I knew that if I kept drinking the way I was, it wasn't going to be good. So I called Val, and she came in 12-step me. And, and here is the thing, man, I tell you, I have been offered a big book solution since day one. All of my sponsors are big book women, long-term sobriety. In Richmond, Virginia, where I am, we are a pocket of, soldiers of AA, of people that really are doing the deal. So it's not like I got some watered down version, but in my mind, I'm a little smarter. I'm a little different. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was just so delusional. I couldn't see the truth of it. It hit me upside the head, but anyway, so I got, I was really serious about the program, and I got into the middle of the circle, the triangle, and, went through the big book, and, started taking the actions, and, the desire to drink was removed, and, I started sponsoring people and all that. But something at about 2.5, maybe the third year, all of a sudden I'm like, man, something's wrong with me. And I started to think maybe I had, I worked the steps, and I'm sponsoring people, and I'm taking turkeys to the alkathon, and I'm speaking. I'm being a good little girl, where's mine? I mean, I'm like, is this all they have to offer? And then I decided, without really telling my sponsor truth, because I really was afraid to tell him how I was really feeling. Because I thought I'd done something wrong, or, like I wasn't getting it. And I thought I was so smart. I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided that AA was great for not drinking, but there was something else wrong with me. So I go on a thing to seek, happiness, like what I wanted. I want that happy, joyous, and free. Y'all keep talking about that, and I'm ready to kill myself or kill somebody. I mean, I was angry, but I'm putting on a face like, yeah, everything's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was not being honest. I was just, going through the motions and then wanting my prize. And so anyway, I ended up getting really sick. I ended up at 5 years not drinking in a psych ward. And I don't know how long I was there. I think Sammy called me when I was up there. She remembers. I mean, it was just crazy. And then I ended up, because I could not live the way I was living. I was in a fetal position. I was, just falling apart. And, the doctors convinced me or, suggested that I may need Klonopin the rest of my life. And, they wanted to put me back on and I did, I just did. And I was in a la land and all that, and had no ability to face reality without something between me and reality. And so I ended up picking up a drink 3 days after my 6-year tip. Went and picked up my 6-year tip, and I barely even remember it. I was like, I can't believe everybody's so worried about me. Look how great I'm doing, And so I ended up drinking, and it was just bad. It was bad. And so oh God, it's such a blur. I was just totally insane. I was drinking the clock. My husband was out of the country. My son had never seen me. He was young when I got sober. He was terrified. I mean, I was a crazy person. I can't believe I'm alive. I really can't. It was not good. I mean, I couldn't even I could not drink. And finally, people came and captured me and put me in the hospital. I was there for 10 days and went away to rehab and all that and came back. Then I relapsed again. But what happened was I got to a point where, I drank again. I just could not drink. I wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself. And I was too big of a chicken, but I couldn't live. I couldn't die. And so that's when I, called my sponsor, who's Christy, and said, drink again. And, I was surrendered at death. I was out of ideas. I've always had ideas. This is what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. There was nothing. And I think the first 2 years of my recovery, I was not the person. I was a shell of a person. It's the greatest gift I've ever been given, is being, because I am a strong-willed type A, take charge, get it done kind of girl. And when that comes to using that with alcoholism, it does not work. And, it was like I was emptied out. I was surrendered at depth. I was like, you know what? I don't believe AA will work. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in anything, but I cannot deny that the people, these years I've been in and out, Sammy stayed, Val stayed, Christy stayed, the people, I would see, and their life is a lot better than mine. And I'm just going to say, I know nothing. And just like the book asks us, our set aside prayer, and we agnostics, it talks about our mind and our prejudices and everything we think we know. It's like, I got to have a clean slate here because this ain't working. And I don't know how I was capable of that. But, as the book says, we can be beaten into a state of reasonableness. And I was, by my own making. And so I started over, and I just decided that whatever I was asked or told to do, because what I would do, my sponsors before would say things like, Debbie, do you believe for us to drink is to die? And I'd like, oh yeah, yes, I believe that. But in my mind, I'm like, maybe you, not me. I'm not that stupid. I mean, I'm going to not let it get that bad. And so I became, transparent and honest. I was like, I can't keep living this way and saying yes when I mean no, and posing and putting up a front, because I have no front left then. I mean, I'm done. I'm going to die. and I want to live a little more than I want to die. So I started on the journey and just became willing. And, you know, when my first year and a half, I was so emotionally a mess because, you know, get the post-acute withdrawal from benzos and all that, and then having never known who I am and what's going on and living based on outside validation and what you think about me, you know, none of that was working more. I landed here, I was 46 years old. I was, you know, like just a mess. And I just had to put one foot in front of the other and be willing to take the actions. And I was, so it was May 30th, 2006. And I know in May, I believe it was May of 2007, it was Bob Darrell, Don Major. I'm not sure if it was the Fatsma. We had a Fellowship of the Spirit in Atlantic. I think it may have been that. But I was at the point where I just didn't feel like I was going to make it. I was so distraught. I was, you know, like I would be homicidal and suicidal within 90 seconds. I mean, I either was so much in self-pity or that I was ready to kill somebody, you know, just going through ups and downs like that. And you know, just seeing no hope. But I somehow I just like, I didn't know what else to do, but I have this filter and I always felt like everybody was happy, joyous, and free but me. Like, what's going on here? And I know people told me the truth, but I think I just had so much between me and you and me and God that I couldn't hear the truth. And I remember I was just like so distraught. And I went to this conference and Bob Darrell started talking. He was like, yeah, and he's talking about, you know, restless irritable discontent. And he was like, yeah, and describing how I felt. And he said, yeah, that was just yesterday. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, you know, like I had not heard that you can feel that way and stay sober, you know, and clearly he's sober and he was up there giving a message of hope. And so I chatted with him and, you know, and said, I really relate to that. And he said, well, if you do, you sound like that alcoholic, the hopeless Friday. He said, you must spend your life turning outwards and upwards, helping God's kids. I'm like, okay, sign me up, you know, which I've always enjoyed doing that. But then Don Major talking about, you know, it's not about what you think, feel, or believe is, but you got to take the actions, you know, walk through it. And, you know, I'm not saying it's not important what I think, feel, or believe, because I got to tell my sponsor and like Sammy about, you know, my tribe, my people that, you know, I'm on this journey with what I really am thinking and feeling and believing and what I really am doing. And that helps me to grow, you know, in, you know, this honesty in becoming more congruent rather than, you know, well, I'll tell you this, but this is what I'm really doing over here. You know, I knew my life depended upon that. And, you know, I have just, you know, continued to put one foot in front of the other. I'm a big seeker. I, love taking folks through the big book. That's where I really grow and can see myself as well and have new experiences. And, I've gone through a lot of things. And, for me, it's like the first 5 years was just up and down and up and down and up and down. And, I would call my sponsor with my latest problem du jour. I mean, I just had so many problems going on all the time, but, I'd call and she'd say, well, Debbie, well, are you going to your meeting? We'd look at, some of y'all know Christy, she talks, she says, I shouldn't be mimicking her, but she's just so wonderful. I love her delivery. But, we would look around the circle and the triangle to see how I was doing, which was, attending my meetings, keeping my commitments, helping others, going all around. And then she said, what's your 11 step look like? Well, yeah, it's kind of good. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's good. Oh, and, I would do it some days and then I didn't, then whatever. Anyway, I got to a place where at about 7 years sober, I hit some type of turning point within my sobriety. And I think it's where it was like an emotional, what happened, my nephew dropped dead, and it was very sudden and traumatic for our family. And I was trying to stay strong. And then my beloved cat, who we'd had for like 15 years, died right in front of me. And all of a sudden, like this thing, this power that was working in my life to keep me sober and, had helped me develop better relationships and less dependencies. All of a sudden, nothing's working. I had a major panic attack, and I hadn't had one, since I'd gotten sober. And my son and husband got so scared. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I had had one. I can't even describe them to you. The ones I have are the ones you literally know you're dying for sure. And it's like a brain aneurysm, a stroke, and your lungs are collapsing all at the same time. And so I was taken to the emergency room. They thought I was having a heart attack. And anyway, I tell you, this is where there's things, the growth this has happened for me. I usually can only see in the rearview mirror, because I was just scared to death. I felt like I was dying. I got to the emergency room, and I'm just distraught. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And they kept wanting to give me something to calm me down. And every fiber of my being wanted to calm down and not feel the way I was feeling, like I was dying, and get some relief. But something kept making me say no. Because somehow I knew in my heart and in my soul, and I feel like this was the presence of the power in my life doing for me what I could not do for myself. I wouldn't let him do it. My husband begged me to, because it was hard for him to see me suffering, because I knew in my mind, or in my soul, I don't even think it was my mind's not capable of coming up with, that if I didn't walk through this with the power of God, that I would have to rely on that power of Klonopin and booze, and I would die. And I was given the power to do that. And I tell you, but after that, I had this weird sensation that I'd been dropped off the Grand Canyon, and I was dropping and getting ready to splat any second, and walked around like that. But you know what? I was given the power to show up anyway. I was given the power to help others anyway. I don't know how, I can't even tell you, but what happened is that's when I met Erica Maynard, and she and her husband, Mike, and my husband, Bob, and I, we met them in Grand Cayman, and I just loved her, and we became friends. And I did some work with her. She said, oh yeah, you're at that place where people get at 7, 10, whatever years in this, you need a bigger God, like you really, I'm like, yes, I do. Cause, but that, I think that I had used the, I was on the bridge of reason for a long time and couldn't quite step ashore because, so I became emptied out again and looked at what my alcoholism looks like at 7.5 years and what's going on. And I don't know, I've just had incredible experiences, and continue to seek and this kept coming up in my mind that this is what has happened to me. The ideas, emotions, and attitudes that used to be the driving forces in my life have not suddenly been cast aside, but bit by bit, piece by piece, have been set aside, and a new sense of direction, which is, I think, is the only reason is because I've been willing and don't beat myself up. I ask for help, and I continue to pick up the spiritual tools and actually do them. And I'm going to say at that 7.5 years when I lost it, I have not gone a day without doing my 11th step. Maybe but I'm consistent at it. And not that it's rigid or whatever, but it's the black and the, it says that's what we do. And that's what I've done. And I have found it has become a working part of my mind. I am a reactor. I am a like strong-willed woman, redneck from Kentucky. And man, we just, I grew up like, it's either fist or cuss you out. It's like, we react. And I have actually been given a pause in my life. It just amazes me that I don't have to, I can just be like, okay. When I started having some growth emotionally or growing up or whatever, getting my ass off my shoulder, I found there was things I used to care about. I wasn't worried about, or, like judgment or God, or, just, I don't know, just stuff that used to be a big deal. I got in a state of neutrality. It's like, this feels weird, and I've talked to my friends about it. And I think it's just, in certain areas of my life, I've been able to grow and mature. And, not all, I mean, my God, but I'll take what I can get, and it's like, let's see. I need to refer to this a little bit since this is what this is about. So this thing where why can't the 12 steps work depression, and that was one of my, oh my gosh, my battery's running low. Oh hell. I got to get my cord. Sorry, hold on one second. Oh my God, I just got my battery. Oh my gosh. We have a computer here that's Bob's, but I don't like his computer, so I went and got one.
Oh, we lost her. So give her a couple minutes to come back here. I'm sure she'll pop back in. And in the meantime, I am going to read a sentence and call on someone. The sentence I'm going to read is, it is most clear that the real current cannot flow until my paralyzing dependencies are broken and broken at depth. And I'm going to call on Sammy if she's still in here, because I know Debbie's going to call on you too. I don't know where she's at here. I only have an iPad, so I'm not as good. Oh, maybe she got kicked off too. Let's see. It's like the improv. I don't see anybody from Richmond. Maybe all Richmond went kerflooey except for Deanna and Sarah. Mary, would you like to share for a minute? I'm going to have you put in some time. Is that okay? Yes, you. Yes, you.
Read that again.
It is most clear that the real current, the love of God, its creation, can't flow until my paralyzing dependencies are broken and broken at depth.
Mary, they're alcoholic. When she was saying what she did about how kind of like she's been released slowly from different areas. I identify with that. How do I want to say this? I guess when I first would be going through the steps, probably for the first 20 years or so, I would get to the fourth and fifth step, and I really would get an understanding about what Mary There's been up to. What, I'm kind of the fish I got to catch, and I could see how I had been blocking like the sunlight of the spirit. And it would be at that time, I didn't consciously, but unconsciously, it was like I had said to myself, oh, well, for God's sakes, Mary Thayer, just don't do that anymore. And we'll be okay with this, and we'll get this flowing here, this, God's will here. And what I didn't understand is that I unconsciously would be going back to my self-sufficiency and depending really on myself. I was talking about this earlier, where it says in the ABCs, it finally hit me. It says that my life's unmanageable and that no human power could relieve me of whatever that unmanageability is. And I'm a human power, and yet I kept going back to my human power. So the idea of getting the knowledge of what actually was going on with me in a certain area of my life and discussing it with another human being and with God, my fifth step, I'm halfway through, and half measures availed me nothing. That's what I learned, is half measures availed me nothing. And it took the last 20 or more years to really understand how important step 6 on is necessary for me to surrender at the level to allow that flow, that God's flow, movement within me. And then it wasn't until I lost my dependence on externals. And again, we talk about this all the time on page 98, as long as my dependence is on others or other things rather than God, it just doesn't work. I mean, I might have moments of relief, but it's not where I feel, I'll steal from non-coitus, where I feel like a hollow bone, where I've surrendered enough of myself, where I feel that there's a presence and a spirit with me. In order to be able, she talked also about, she's learned how to pause, and she isn't reacting, she's more responding. And I think that happens as we clear away the wreckage of our past. Is she back?
She's back. Debbie, are you there?
Debbie, let's get with it.
I think I am. Oh my gosh. All I can do is laugh. I am so sorry, you guys. We have a setup here, but Bob's computer is just kind of not good. So I bought mine in, but I forgot to bring the cord. I said, so anyway, thank you all. Yeah, Mary Thayer, and I wanted to hear your share.
I'm here to hear you, dear.
Well, I'm about done because I really want to hear everybody else. I've kind of gone, but I know I had read this article before when I was in extreme angst with my feelings, like depressed or anxious or hopeless or whatever one of the self-pity du jours I had going on that day. And there have been many. He talks about, why can't I get over the depression? My experience with that, I tell you, it's so unbelievable to me. Depression and anxiety were the guiding forces in my life, even well into sobriety. And, and where it talks about we outgrow fear, I used to want it I wanted to be poofed. Like, I'm going to pray. Okay, I'm going to do, okay, God, in our 10th step, which is easy for us to do because I'm all I think about how I'm feeling, how you're feeling about me, but I would feel fear come on and depression, and I'd ask God to remove it. And then I wait to be poofed so I could go do what I needed to do. Well, they ended up getting me drunk. That was one of the things during that 6-year time. I thought, well, this damn thing doesn't work. I'm being a good little girl and doing the 10th step and asking God. I don't even ask God to remove anything. I'm just like, I'm here. I don't know what's going on. Please help me. And please help me not hurt anyone. But I had to walk through it. And I've had to walk through my anxiety. I go and show up anyway. My sponsor always, says, we made a decision that God's going to be everything, then put legs on your prayers. And that meant, and that's what I was always not willing to do, to get sober or to get emotionally sober. You know, I could be like a petulant 2-year-old. And then I had another little poor, pitiful, scared little girl, Debbie, you know, and I have grown up here. You know, I've gotten to see through inventory that I was treating my husband like, you know, he's responsible, you know, for everything, for my emotional security, my financial security, even though I was making my own money. But it's like, I might want to quit my job and he needs to be pulled, you know, like I had all these things that he needed to provide for me to be okay. And through the years in inventory, I said, my God, I'm trying to teach him, treat him, put him in a position as a father and as a, you know, whatever, psychiatrist. I mean, he's totally responsible for my feelings in my life. That is like not okay. I need to be a partner. And, you know, so, you know, I'm just so grateful for the path we have to continue to you know, learn and grow and see, you know, what's going on. Why is this happening, you know, through this inventory process, and seeing the truth about Debbie, and having people in my life that are happy to tell me the truth about Debbie. But today I'm willing to hear it. I want to hear it. And, you know, as a result of that, when I finally saw that, I don't know, that maybe that was about 5-6 years sober. We shouldn't be married. My God, you don't even know what we've been through. But well, everybody's been through everything, not just us. But we will be married, I think 29 years, 20, something like that, in January. And we have a really good relationship. We do. I mean, and it's just a lot of people that know us, it is a miracle y'all stayed married. And, you know, but it's only because of the ability to, you know, be autonomous, you know, knowing where I begin and he ends. Before it's just one big blob, you know. And, you know, so, you know, I don't think that I can have any hope at growth unless I'm, you know, really willing to continue. Even I'm very agnostic. I mean, someone's like, I don't know if there's anything there or not, but I'm willing to believe. I'm willing to believe there is. I'm willing to keep taking the actions. And, you know, what I can't deny, there is a power working in my life that has changed me, has changed my heart. You know, there's people, you know, one of the things I've seen in my growth, that in like, I'm not making this happen. You know, it's like, I finally do have surrenders though. Cause I mean, things become objectionable to me and I just can't hardly stand to be with myself. You know, it's like, you know, I'll run something down like, my God, like this is just not good, and become willing, you know, to do anything I have to do to be able to change that behavior, because the results aren't good and it's hurting me and other people, you know. But yeah, I mean, this, you know, it all, I love this thing, you know, my basic flaw still, you know, today is, it's gotten better, you know, not absolute dependence, but, you know, on people's circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and the like. I've come a long way in that. I mean, I really have, but I'll still, you know, that'll sneak in and I'll still think something's going to make me feel okay. I was just telling Val, I've spent a lot of money here lately on Christmas and myself. It's like one for you, one for me, two for me, one for you. You know, I keep seeing stuff and it's become objectionable. I'm kind of, you know, like, you know, this is not good, but it's making me feel good because I can go and buy it. I'm looking at retiring. I'm like, man, I need to tighten up here. But I was telling her, it's like, I think it's because I'm getting ready to retire and I don't want people to spend money like that. So I'm doing it now. I mean, anything to make me feel good, you know? So, but I'm aware of it. And that's the great thing, the awareness. And, you know, seeing my dependency upon, you know, people and letting them off the hook. Nobody's responsible for me. It's nobody, everybody gets to lead their life. I get to lead mine. Thank God. And let's see. And this last thing, I'm going to end with this. I'm starting to babble and I want to hear everybody else. You know, that thing that Bill ends with, you know, he says, let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hobbling demands of everything I think I need to be okay and all that. And, and it says that his brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. And that is I've gotten a taste of that. Like, I'm not up and down and all right now. I can be, providing the planets align, and I don't know, but the depression has been the biggest thing. It has not, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the spiritual actions, the seeking and continuing on this path, my spiritual growth, the spiritual tools and what I do here in AA is bigger than depression, bigger than fear. It is not ruling my life in a way that affects it so detrimentally that I can't do what I need to do and function in life. And, and to me, that's awesome. I mean, I didn't think that could ever happen. I didn't think that I would ever be able to not feel, like, okay, here comes the depression. Let me put on my cloak of self-pity and depression and go hole up somewhere. And that's what I used to do. And I would end up drunk. And now I'm like, oh gosh, I feel a little blue. Oh, well, and I'll talk to my sponsor, but some days, every day, here's the thing. I have the human condition. People die, bad things happen, lose jobs, whatever. I should have died back in 96. I'm still here. I've been given a new life in a wonderful way to live based on these, what's in the big book and the teachers and guides that I have. I'm going to feel, God created me to feel joy and sadness and those types of things. And I've accepted that. But, what we have here is a wonderful way. What I've found here is a wonderful way to navigate through that and not have to drink. And to me, and to not hurt people and to be aware of, what's going on in my life and participate in it. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very, very grateful. And I don't get caught up on like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I don't know. I'm capable of anything, but I don't hurt too many people today that intentionally. But this continues for a lifetime. I think I'm this is just the tip of the iceberg for me. And man, I'm gonna keep getting it. And even through the good times, the bad times, whatever, it doesn't change the fact that I have a bad case of alcoholism, a spiritual malady that almost took me out. And so I'm just going to keep on doing it and keep on growing the best I can. And with that, I'm going to finish, and I'm grateful and thank you. And oh my gosh, sorry about the power outage. Love you all. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Debbie. However, you're not finished because, because in this group, the person who shares is asked to call on a few people to share that they would like to hear from. And so 3-4 people, and then if need be, I can take over.
Oh, so I get to pick. Oh, well, let me see who else here. Let me get my glasses.
You get to pick for a little bit if you see people who are interesting or see people who are, I don't know, not interesting.
Let's see. It's hard for me to see. God, there's so many people in here. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Well, I see somebody right now. I'm gonna call on Miss Sammy from Richmond, Virginia.
Thank you, Debbie. What a great lead, Debbie. Thank you so much. I'm Sammy Griffin. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 9th, 1981. 1989, and it's through God's grace and a sponsor who loved me enough until I could learn to love you. I am happy to be sober. I love being sober. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Debbie, you hit on something that really touches me. In the big book, it talks about the 5 different types of alcoholics, just a rough 5 in doctor's opinion. And when I came in, I was the only one that they mentioned in that I wasn't, was able, friendly, and intelligent. When I got here, I was unstable and I couldn't even put a sentence together. And I think that was the best way that I could possibly get to Alcoholics Anonymous, because I didn't want to be Sammy anymore, and I knew that God had touched me that day. I didn't know it then, but something had changed in me. And how can I be so drunk one day and then the next, be an Alcoholics Anonymous? It's just amazing. But I really believe that all my experiences, all the experiences, me coming in, not knowing didn't have a relationship with God, didn't have all these things that, I wasn't a kind or loving person, I was a taker, it was all these things. And getting hooked up with a strong sponsor, and I took her by the hand. We walked hand in hand in the spirit. And I just did what she said to do. I just jumped in her back pocket and did what she did. And it was in increments for me about that emotional sobriety, because I was resentful. I was mean. And my simple things, like at the beginning, I had to learn to say please and thank you. I mean, simple things like that, I had to do. And little by little, in increments, by learning how to let go, let God, which used to drive me crazy listening to that. How do you do that? And doing all these things by practicing. And the key word for me was practice. Whether I believed it or not, I practiced. And what I just know, and as I sponsor a lot of people, and I see it, and I get the honor and privilege to see people going through it the same way I did. We don't come in here on a good day. And with our experiences, whether running into the walls, with this, doing the same thing and getting hurt, and doing the same thing over and over, eventually, by all the prayers, something changed. We change. You said it. I don't think the same. I don't feel the same. And I don't believe the same. And how does that happen to someone like me? The big book says no latent vicissitude could change, what I do. And that is so true in my life. Even with my husband just passing away, people said to me, oh, I'm glad you didn't drink. Why would I drink? I've been restored to sanity. Things happen, in our lives. We've been given a gift, from God. And I cherish that gift every day. So I really thank you so much, Debbie. You really are an important person in my life. We have a great history. We do. So thank you all.
Love you, Sammy. Thank you. I want to hear from Susan H. from Montana.
Hi, my name's Susan, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to get really personal pretty fast. I don't know you guys, but I just had this amazing experience. My sobriety date is July 5th, 1988. Years ago, when I was doing my amends, I tried to make amends to my sisters, and they wouldn't hear it. They just didn't want to hear it. And I could not accept their no. And I went ahead, did the rest of my amends, kept showing up in AA, working with others, working with a lot of others, a lot of service. But this was just eating at me on this, I don't know how to describe it. And just recently, I was at this international, huge big book study meeting, and we were talking about the amends. And for me, it was like, this is life or death. I didn't care about looking good. I just wanted to get some peace with this stuff. And I said, you know, I said, what do I do? They won't hear my amends. What do I do? And he talked about how for me to force my amends on them, for me to feel better, to force my amends on them at their expense so that I would feel better. And this is stuff that my sponsor had been saying to me years ago. But it ties into what you guys are talking about, because I took some notes here. It's like what I thought I needed to be okay. It's like for years, I thought that I needed to have this fantasy relationship with my sisters to be okay. And I've just been carrying it and doing a number. And this is happening for me right now. This is like really recent, but I'm accepting. And this is stuff, you know how your sponsor says stuff to you and like 10 years later, you can hear it. This is going on. It's like, I'm accepting they are where they are. And in order for them to hear my amends, it would cause them harm because it would bring stuff up in them. And it's hard to put it all in words because it's happening, but I feel lighter. It's like, I feel like the Susan that existed in Alcoholics Anonymous, like before I got there, no. And I'm just really, it's like dependence on people, dependence on things outside of myself. And I guess I had to learn, a really, really big lesson. And I'm really grateful to be here and listen to all of you guys. And I'm gonna stop talking and go back to listening. Thanks.
Thank you. Dawn, do I call on another person or do we open it?
What would you like?
I'll call on one more person, then maybe we open up so other people that want to share. I want to follow your all's format. So you're the boss. You're the boss of me right now. So tell me.
Call on another person, and then I'll call on a couple people.
Okay. How about John H? I like his hat.
I like to wear my hats around the house to keep them in shape. Hey, I'm John. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for calling on me. I'm really grateful to be here tonight. And I heard a lot of good stuff, but I heard two big words. One, you said congruent. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Where am I? Like, I shared it dawned on me yesterday, and I shared it in a meeting yesterday, but I had a really, really busy day yesterday, and I, drove half of Colorado making deliveries, and I was going 85 miles an hour and texting and emailing and talking and shucking and driving through traffic. And the Commodore's Easy Like Sunday Morning came on the radio. And I was like, this is totally my life. I am like Easy Like Sunday Morning. And I love that song. It's just this groove. But, I'm so screwed up. Like reality, I'm more like Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle. I'm doing like 42 things at once, causing more stress to myself, ticking off my to-do list. And, but I think that's Easy Like Sunday Morning, So the new goal is Easy Like Sunday Morning, whatever that reality looks like. And another thing about that congruent that came up for me was when I was drinking, or maybe not even drinking, I always had to be accepted, which meant becoming somebody that you needed me to be in order to be accepted in the group, right? And so to different people, I was a lot of different things. And a couple of years ago, there was a fundraiser for my my nonprofit. And I'm driving there with a friend, and I was getting really, really nervous because, and she asked me what was up, and I was like, well, in the past, I would never invite certain groups of people to be at the same functions, because if they ever all met, you know, the house of cards would fall. And to this benefit, I had invited a lot of people from a lot of different areas of my life. And all of a sudden I got really nervous about that. And she's like, what's up? And I'm like, well, I can't remember who I told what, you know, who I am, you know? And she goes, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. She's not alcoholic. So we got there and I was nervous. We all sat at the table, and my story was straight for the first time in my life. And that was a true sense of congruency there. And my aunt passed away this week. And I've been thinking a lot about her, a lot. And I think that we were a lot alike. And in that way, she scared me in my soul at a very young age, because I recognized that kind of behavior. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I was scared of whatever that was that she had in her, and it was the alcoholism. But at the same time, in my life, she saved my life. You know, she was the first person I called when I wanted to quit drinking again. You know, she had this bouts with, you know, she would get sober and save the world and write a book about being sober, and then she would go back out again. And it was just this back and forth her whole life. And it really got me thinking about, and you said, Mary was talking a little bit about, what was the word? The current, you know, being current with God, I think a little bit about there. And I've been thinking about that in the terms of currency lately, and God's currency. And, you know, God is overwhelmingly generous to us. You know, we get to start over and over and over again. And his currency is giving. You know, he gave me my life, you know, to do whatever he needs me to do in this world, in this little 80 years of life that we have. But really, in God's time, it's just a flash, you know. So there's a job for me. I've been assigned a job. I'm not quite clear on that, what that is, but I know that, you know. And he gave my parents me for whatever reason, you know, for as crazy as I drove them. You know, what did they have to, I don't know if learn is the right word in that. And so it got me thinking, so what's the opposite of the giving is the taking? And I was a taker for a long time in my life, you know. And that's like, if God is so giving, then giving is natural, is what I'm coming up with in my head. That's the natural flow of life. That's what we do best as humans. You know, we all want to give in some way. And then when I'm a taker, it's like trying to defy gravity, you know. It's like going up on a second story. You know, it winds up in bumps and bruises. You know, I jump off something and I get broken. And I don't know where I'm going with all that, but it's just been something that's been really cycling around in my soul the last week. And I'm very grateful to be here, and I hope you all have wonderful holidays. I know it's not easy for everybody, but here we are. It's just one day, and we've gotten through a lot of different days to get to here. So please enjoy what you can, and I love you all. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. And there are two gentlemen in here that I really want to hear from. One is Mr. Gary Archer. Nope, no share.
I'm not good on the computer. I can't find my buttons. I'm Gary, I'm alcoholic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My sobriety date is August the 6th of 1986. I'm sort of out in the open right now. I'm not connected with a home group, but my home group in Denver was Denver Thursday Night Group. I haven't, I really wanted not to share tonight, John. I just wanted to listen because I haven't been to a meeting since the end of October, which is not good for alcoholics. Please don't do that. But I'm grateful that you guys are all here. What I have gleaned from you people tonight, I had a gentleman in Alcoholics Anonymous who was my service sponsor, somebody quite unknown. People probably don't know who he is. His name is Don P. He used to say that we were, that he was, and then various other people have glommed onto this idea that we are spiritual beings having a human experience in this world. And I think that has carried me through these 2 months of this indecision, things that we're up in the air about right now. I don't have a lot to share. I'm out of practice, I'm sorry. My home group, Denver Thursday night, we used to get to have 5 to 7 minutes to speak. And then when we had this strange opportunity to speak outside of our home group, we couldn't shut up. I spoke at FOTS in 2002 and spoke for over 70 minutes. I said, we're just storing all this stuff up. I don't have anything to share tonight. I'm hanging in there. I'm falling back on everything. We lost somebody close to us this summer. Her name is Clary, and I had to go back through some stuff while she was in her last days and share with her just to give her some comfort. And we talked a lot about Don and how he would calm us all down. I could understand Debbie's bout with depression. I went through a period of that when I got, God has given me a second fatal disease besides alcoholism. And when I got that second disease, God didn't give it to me, but I got it. I asked Don, I said, I've gone through periods of depression. And he said that there's 2 types of depression. There's depression that we cause ourselves, and there's depression that is medically induced. And mine, he says, was medically induced because I couldn't divorce myself from this illness. If we take this thing one day at a time and don't drink, we probably will come out the next day and get to do it again. You all have a happy Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And I'd like to hear, as a prequel to next week, from Rick.
Thanks, Don. I'm Rick, alcoholic. Thank you so much for the lead tonight, Miss Debbie, and for everyone that shared. I know in my case, and I'm a big book person as well, I was raised on it. Once the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out emotionally and physically. And I spent a lot of time, the 3 elements that make up AA, as I understand it, is from medicine, psychology, and religion, spirituality, if you will. And medicine gave me a clear picture of what the malady was about in my body, but then it just slammed the door on it, and it says that the problem with the Alcoholic Center is in the mind. So we're not going to go over the bodily aspects of it anymore after step 1. And I spent a lot of time trying to psychologize. I make up words sometimes too, to psychologize the emotional aspects of my personality. but I was putting the cart before the horse, but that's all I knew how to do. So I spent many years in AA in the psychology aspects of trying to get Dr. Jekyll in check. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, for a while, they thought the wrong one sobered up with me, that Mr. Hyde was the one that got sober. But I know today that the bridge of reason is just like the bridge of psychology for me when it comes to emotional stability. I couldn't get there on the bridge of reason, and I can't get fully there with all of the psychology tools. That this is a matter of a spiritual disorder for me once the spiritual malady is overcome. So whenever I hit the wall with not being able to make any more progress, trying to throw psychology at it and understand it and saw it into tiny manageable pieces through psychology, and I had to look at a different level and say, this is a soul sickness for me. And look at it from a totally different point of view. And today I'm still grateful for Carl Jung and all the other psychological aspects that were brought to AA and tools laid at my feet. But I cannot substitute spirituality with psychology. That is a pool of quicksand for me, because I can get lost in analyzing it and explaining it and this and that. But it all comes down to no human power can relieve it. So I've got to get this relationship with God straightened out. And then I'm not so dependent. And that's when I can reach that point, which is one of Mary MT's favorites, about matching calamity with serenity. The quick fingertip inventory, if I have calamity, is what am I not trusting God with? That cuts through all of the potty training and the traumatic events that happened in my life, and all of all the other drama, and just puts me on the money. It says, what am I not trusting God with? That's the source of this the lack of emotional sobriety. Because if I can trust God today with my material instinct, my social standing, and my sex conduct, there's not anything left to have any emotional upset over. And for a guy like me, I have to take active participation in what my desires are. I've been really looking into that lately, because it starts with a desire and then it escalates to a demand. And it goes from a desire to a demand to an obsession. And by the time it hits obsession, I'm toast. No human power, whether it's any of these conditions that I set up that have to be met to be okay. It starts out as a very simple and innocent desire. But boy, whenever I put that alcoholic personality and thinking to it, it escalates quickly to a demand and then an obsession. So the challenge today is pull my desires in line with what God's desires would be for my life, my higher power, if you will. And then it's like Gomer Pyle, Shazam, I get to have it my way, because my way is in line with what God's will for me is. So the struggle's over with. And it wasn't about trying to get God to co-sign my stuff anymore. It's about me pulling my desires in line with what I think my higher power would have me to be. And then I get to have my way, and I'm emotionally sober. It's just amazing. Just a quick example, real quick, but it's important to me. It's current, like Gary was talking about, and also other people should. This is current. This is like Susan. Yesterday, I dropped off a package with some relatives, and there was an outcast that lives in the neighborhood across the street from my oldest stepdaughter, and her name is Katie. So I'm getting ready to leave. I'm back in the car. I see Katie across the cul-de-sac. I said, "Hey, Katie, come over here." And she looked at me and came over there. And I got down on one knee and I scratched her behind the ears and between the front legs and got a lick on by my ear. And this look out of these eyes of like, wow, I'm so glad that you called me over here. Thanks for the attention. And Katie's a dog. Katie's a hound dog with the big floppy ears. And I had a spiritual experience with Katie in the driveway, trying to include the excluded. Before I was a clique person. You're either in with the in crowd or you're an imposter or you're an outsider. And that just brought it home to me with an interaction with this long floppy eared hound dog named Katie with a rubber antenna sticking off of her collar so her owner could keep track of her. The look from another creature of being included and give them a scratch and show them some love and attention was a spiritual experience for me. And that was a condition that did not cost any money, very little time, but I had to be awake and paying attention and also reach out to Katie and try to take advantage of a situation to offer one of God's creatures some love and kindness. And boy, it paid off. I don't know what Katie's lasting aspect of it was, but I've been floating on it for a couple of days. But anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing, Rick. I was reminded, as you were sharing, I really caught something from Juanita Yule about the real current being able to flow when I'm not clogged up with dependency or demand, that love can come out of me and be freely given to another human being, which for an alcoholic, you know, is as self-centered as we are. I don't think I'm that unique. Is indeed miraculous. And the other day, when you were talking about the Katie story, I was sitting in a restaurant in Dollywood, and the food was horrible and it was noisy and smelled bad. And I was looked across the room, and there was like a 5-year-old little boy. And he was spaced out, like totally spaced out. And I was watching him and I was thinking, I wonder what he's doing. And I was, actually analyzing the inside of his head. And, I was imagining him building Minecrafts inside his head. And it was fascinating to watch him. And about that time, a fire truck came down the street. And there's nothing more valuable to a 5-year-old boy than a fire truck. And he lit up in his face. He snapped into his body, and the awe and wonder of a child looking at a fire truck was present. And the fire truck went past, and he looked at me, and I winked at him, and he winked back. And that has been for me the same thing that I've been floating on that moment for a week. And you would say nothing really happened, but me and that child connected in a place where my inner critic, Miss Hyde, who is she just hates everything, was able to see this child. And it was incredible. So, how to convince our dumb and raging hidden Mrs. Hyde becomes my main task. It's the main task, and I can allow that part of me to rule the roost. Or I love what it says. It says, reinforced by the grace I can secure in prayer, I find I exert every ounce of will and action to cut off those faulty emotional dependencies upon people, AA, indeed any set of circumstances, whatever. And I was reinforced by the prayer of, doing the attentiveness. And I saw that child, and the gift was given. And I don't know whether the child will see it, but it will be a huge piece of my Christmas. And again, for an alcoholic, there's something there, because I'm without a lot of grace, I'm not capable of seeing that child. Debbie, I really appreciate your share. I thank you so much. You are precious to my recovery. And I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you, Chris, for hosting this. You have done an incredible gift to us. Thank you. I wish everybody happy holiday, and we're going to go to our inner room and say the prayer that gives you the presence to be with that is most comfortable for you. Amen. And thank everyone.
Don, thank you
Thank you,
so
Dawn.
much.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.